Yeah, welcome back, guys, to another video. This entire divide and conquer tactic apply to all of the social constructs of our ecosystem. When I say social constructs of our ecosystem, I'm talking about the realm of education. I'm talking about the realm of sports, the realm of politics, the realm of music, the realm of academia. It's in everywhere. It's in every facet, and we're so we're so spread thin in terms of our allegiances that it's hard for us as a common human collective to think about the number one enemy. And I've said this a million times. I'm going to continue to say it. Our enemy is not human. And do not imply that I mean that the enemy is spirits or demons. No. You may want to call them demons. You may want to call them spirits. We are dealing with extraterrestrial forces that have always influenced this seed planet that we call Earth. This is a known fact. This is not conjecture. This is not you know, a speculation or anything like that. There are millions and millions of galaxies, millions of universes that exist, and Earth is not the only planet that habits human life, or that habits that I know that contains life. These planets that are out there are not just ornaments hanging in the cosmos just for decoration. Um, our planet has been infiltrated, and the mainstream media is one out of many, many apparatuses used as weaponry against our minds. And I call this neurological warfare, or what most would coin psychological warfare, where you hear the term psyop. That's where you get the term psychological operation from. Psyop means psychological operation. It's neurological in essence because if you can temper and infiltrate the neurons of a human's brain, then you can get them to react the way you want them to react. It's done by the foods that we eat. It's done by the weather modification systems, by the spraying of nanoparticulates in the sky that we breathe in. It's in our cells, it's in our genes. Whether you believe in vaccinations or not, whether you got the vaccines or not, we're all vaccinated. Whether you went volitionally or even if you didn't go to the hospital to get the jab, you're still somehow vaccinated by your environment, by the ecosystem that we're under. Um, and I'm saying all that to say this, that we are being messed with like lab rats. When I say we, I mean collectively as a human race. What bothers me is that when I look online and I'm, perusing through the internet, I'm looking at social media. I don't have a TikTok account. I don't have an Instagram. All I have is YouTube. I have a regular email. I may get feeds. I may get notifications from different publications about current events, but I'm not a big social media person. I do have a YouTube channel, as you see me speaking on that channel right now. Um, I find it very, very disturbing because every time I hear people talk, there's always division, and it's hard to come together as one. We were once there before, and that's why I tell people to open up your mind and consider all history, all narratives, consider all historical books, whether it's the Bible, the Torah, the Talmud, the ancient book of the dead, the ancient Kings list, the Sumerian tablets, the Enuma Elish, the Baga. I don't know if I can pronounce that right. The Baga Avida, something like that. I think that's the way you pronounce it. Um, Tales of Atreus. There's so many ancient books out there that we consider myth, but the Bible that many of you Bible believers believe in, they've taken stories out of those myths and put it inside the Bible and just changed the names and curated certain informations to gain population control and gain control of the mind. Now, it's hard for some of us to understand how are they controlling our minds? It's not left up to the humans to understand how they're being controlled by an extraterrestrial force. See, lab rats don't understand that they are the experiment. Lab rats are just in the laboratory going through their mundane day-to-day existence. They don't have the mental capacity to think outside of themselves to say, hey, are we being controlled here? They don't, because they're within it. They're in it. Once you're in the game, you've already lost. That's why a true spiritual awakening doesn't entail going to a synagogue or going to a church, opening your Bible. A true awakening is to extract yourself completely from the system. You say, how can I do that? Exactly what I just said. You cannot believe anything that this world gives you. Then the next question is, what am I supposed to believe? You're not supposed to believe anything unless you know it. Belief is just a poor man's way of saying that I am not willing to do the due diligence, but I'm going to just believe and just hope that what I believe is true. That's a very, very jaded way of thinking. It's not wise. It's not conducive to any type of success. It's not logical. It's not steeped in any basis of rational thinking. So we can't just always believe. Don't believe anything. Start to know things. And when you separate the two and you know that you don't give yourself an option to believe, then as a conscious human being, you're left with no choice but to seek out information and seek knowledge. And if you only operate off of what you know, which is the base term science, science means to know. That's why the term omniscient means all knowing, because science has the base word science in it. Consciousness, conscience, science has the word science in it. It means to know, to be aware, to be awakened to a certain degree. You have to go off of what you know. And what I see is concerning to me because I'm listening to I was listening to a debate. Well, you could call it a debate, but it was really just a bunch of guys just talking back and forth, talking over each other. It was Myron Gaines, the guy that hosts. I think he hosts a show called Fitness and Fit. I forgot the name of the show, man. They said Myron Gaines. He does a show, Fresh and Fit. Fresh and Fit. He does a Fresh and Fit podcast, and usually he's bringing in these young, girls on there that do OnlyFans, and he's just berating them. Just, his platform is built off of the stupidity of a bunch of jaded young females. And does he make some points? Yes. And then you have this guy named Tariq Nasheed. I think that's his name. And these guys were supposed to have a debate, but there were many others that were talking on this broadcast that I was listening to, and it's sad because though I'm listening to it, at my age now, I'm to the point where I can listen to two sides and not have a an attachment to either argument. In other words, Myron was saying that white supremacy doesn't exist, and that anyone who's here, all right, as a foundational black person has no excuse because they're foreigners who come here with nothing, who make well in this country. So the argument with Myron is that there are too many people here giving excuses, too many black people here giving excuses because they're lazy. They like to play the role of victimization, and they're willing to use anything and point the finger at the ideal or the ideology of white supremacy as the cause of their problems rather than doing something about it. Tariq Nasheed, on the other hand, would say no, white supremacy exists because certain governmental structures and certain governmental statutes have been put in place to make sure that the whites, and he clumps whites and Jews together. And what Myron and the rest of the other guys, I think Sneeko was on there as well, they were trying to get him to delineate, make a distinction between whites and Jews. And Tariq was like, no, I'm not making a distinction. They're all white to me. It's all white supremacy. It's all underneath the label of white supremacy. And as I listened to this, it was over 2 hours, and it was the more I listened to it, the more the entire argument was futile, because I could see beneath the surface of the motive of a bigger agenda that neither party can see, because they're so immersed into their own myopic viewpoints. They're so immersed into their own arguments that they can't see outside the framework of their arguments. You see, once you start to attain or possess a wider perspective on how this world operates, you start to understand that every construct, every argument, every divide, every principle of duality has been put here intentionally to divide. It makes it very easy to be conquered. I know we've heard the term, the old adage, divide and conquer. It's easier to conquer people that are divided. Well, the reason why that's an old adage is because there's some truth to it. There's definitely a lot of truth to that. If you look at your Bible, or not even the Bible, I say the Bible because that's the book that most people are familiar with, but there are other books that predate the Bible that have the same narrative in there. Epic of Gilgamesh. There are other books out there that have similar stories, but that Tower of Babel story is in other epics as well. That Tower of Babel story about human beings being able to do whatever they wanted, the way the Bible writes it, and the way we've been, actually the Bible doesn't even write it that way, but the way we've been programmed to contextualize the content of the Bible, we've been forced and indoctrinated to view human innovation as something that's evil. We've been brainwashed to believe that doing things that lean into the human bent are negative and sinful. And anything that the human does is bad and evil. And anything that God does, this sky God that's in the sky that we have never seen, that we just believe in, anything that he does is always good. Even if he asks you to kill your child, it's good. If he asks you to kill your mother, it's good. There's nothing wrong. There's no wrong that this all benevolent being could ever do, because he's always right. His judgments are always right, no matter what. And if you as a human being even question the actions of this God, then that shows your ineptitude as a spiritual inept person, unfit to even ask God the question, or even put God in the court seat, in the courtroom, to ask him questions about why did you do this, why did you do that. You can't even question this God. And they call that all loving. I'm telling you guys this for a reason, because I want you guys to look at what was happening in the Tower of Babel. Okay? Human beings as a collective, because we all spoke the same language, there was no divide, there was no cultural divide. We were all one. We were able to come together and do whatever the hell we wanted. And just because you're able to do what you want doesn't mean that what you want is going to be evil. But I find it ironic that the God of the Bible, who can do whatever he wants, allows a lot of evil to occur, because he can do whatever he wants. But the minute human beings are given the empowerment, or whenever they become enabled to do whatever they want, it's deemed as, oh, it's a sin, blasphemy. You can't do whatever you want. You got to live by the rules of God. Well, this sky God comes down to confuse their language, hence the term Tower of Babel. Babel. They're babbling. It's hard to understand people. It's hard to communicate. It's hard to build together when there's a divide with the language. We see that in our common day-to-day existence. When there's a language barrier, there's a definite obstacle to overcome, because you can't understand who you're talking to. There's a definite divide. He starts by confusing the language. There was also DNA manipulation as well. So not only did he divide the languages, he also divided the way we looked, to further and deepen the chasm between people. So not only are we separated through language, we're also separated by genetics, because we look at Chinese people differently than we look at African Americans or black people. We look at Caucasians differently because we all have certain features that tells people that this is where you're from. And this is all strategic. It's all strategically done because the masters and the rulers of this world, they understand the power of division. Half of the battle is already won on their end. They don't need to manipulate us. We're doing the hard work for them. So when I'm listening to this podcast or this broadcast with these guys arguing for over 2 hours, I'm just in shock how everything that they're talking about is totally irrelevant. Even if white supremacy does exist, even if there's something called Jewish supremacy, or let's say if it does or doesn't exist, it's a moot point. The point is, as we remain divided in concepts and subject matters of such, it keeps us in that hole where we can't look outside the bigger framework or the bigger picture and look at the grand picture and say, okay, who is the common enemy? Look at politics for an example. There are people that watch politics every single day. I'm a Democrat. I'm a Republican. I'm an alternate right. I'm alternate left. I'm liberal. I'm conservative. I'm left wing. I'm right. Like it's sad, but it's sad where we've gone. And it's political theater at best. You might as well watch soap operas, Days of Our Lives, General Hospital. Just watch those shows. Watch reality shows. That's what politics is. It's a reality show. I've said this, and the longer I live, the more that the things I say become increasingly more validated. Trump is an actor. You say, what do you mean an actor? He's not in Hollywood. Yes, these are actors. They're puppets. They're faces they're emblems, symbols, faces of something that's more nefarious than the mind can even fathom. It's bigger than what you think. It's not about presidents. Presidents don't run anything. It's to give off the veneer of democracy. There's no democracy. We're being taken over. I don't know if you guys know that show that's on Amazon Prime called The Boys. You know, when I look at Homelander, and you have to be very, very intentional when you watch shows on television because they're telling you the truth, but they're doing it in a form of entertainment to amuse you. If you break down the term amuse, A means not, muse means think. To be amused is to not think. So when they put on entertainment, which is another subcomponent of being amused because you're being entertained, you're not thinking. The television is thinking for you. Then you go into imaginary land and you've made yourself believe that the entertainment that you're being showed is not really real. It's steeped in the realm of fictionality. It's fake. So it's just something to entertain me. But I don't view things like that. Everything to me is fiction. Politics is fiction. We're the ones that give politics its validity because we watch it, we believe in it. We go out like idiots to vote as if our votes matter. So we give it its validity. So what I've done, I've taken everything, science fiction movies, everything that seems like it's far-fetched. I watched movies and I tried to find out truth in everything that's shown. So when you look at the character Homelander on The Boys, the series called The Boys on Amazon Prime, Homelander is a direct representation of America. He's wearing the American flag as his cape. He can destroy anybody that he wants. He can laser 1,000 people and fry them and fillet them immediately. Who's the world power? America. Who's the country that goes into other countries to take over? America. Who's the country that sets up certain events to justify going to war? America. Who has their military bases in so many countries around the world? America. America, folks. Homelander represents America. On The Boys, Is Homelander depicted as a protagonist or is he viewed as an antagonist? He's an antagonist. He's the bad guy of that show. And in this real world that we live in, America is the bad guy. I don't care if you're prosperous in America. I don't care if they've told you that it's a land of opportunity. Yes, in every evil regime and every evil empire, there's a leeway, there's loopholes where they're going to allow you to have accesses to certain things to make the oppression even sweeter and more palatable to those that are being oppressed, because the ones that are being oppressed who don't think they're oppressed are the best ones to oppress because you don't think you're being oppressed. That's the way it works. They can't be all evil overtly. Evil is evil covertly. There are times where Homelander on the show comes out and gives a fake smile in front of the cameras. He gives fake speeches and people clap and applaud him. But behind closed doors, he's evil. That's America, folks. America is the CIA. America is Israel. Israel runs America. Israel is just a small country. That's why all Americans and all politicians, they swear their allegiance to Israel. So when I hear people arguing or being divided with these social, constructs that we are under, okay, man-made construction, social constructs within this stratosphere, the social stratosphere that we're under. And when I see division and I hear division, I understand that we're losing every time. Why do you think it bothered God in the Bible that human beings were coming together? That's why I'm saying that our enemy is not terrestrial. They're not from this terrain. Our true enemy is extraterrestrial. Extra means out, exo, outside this terrain, which makes it alien. Don't get discouraged or be bewildered when you hear the term alien. I don't mean somebody walking around with 10 heads and 50 arms looking like a monster. An alien could look just like me. They can cloak themselves in a human exoskeleton. They can cloak themselves and look human. We're talking about interdimensional being, extra-dimensional beings, interplanetary beings. We're talking about underground cities and underground tunnels. There are over 400 and something underground tunnels in America alone. Why doesn't the news talk about that? Maybe they can't talk about that. So the world is ran by fear and division. Fear of storms coming. Fear of another disease. I was reading online the other day. I got a notification about the bird flu, some kind of swine flu, bird flu. And they're saying how it's gotten into certain animals. I'm like, how do y'all know that? Do y'all just randomly just test animals? They're getting ready for the next thing. There's always something coming up on the horizon. And they've gotten us all trained to be fearful. And when we live in fear, which is a hellish vibration, if you look at Hawkins' consciousness scale, being afraid, living in fear, perpetual state of fear, living in agony, living in shame, living in guilt, which is all part of this Christian dogma, because they tell you to feel guilty about your sin. They want you to feel ashamed about who you were so you can give yourself to this sky god that you've never seen. So you have to be put in a very low vibrational state to even come into a state of spirituality, which is a conundrum in itself. It's a paradox. The only way you could come to a true spiritual, awakening is to be vibrating on a high frequency. You can't come in through the annals of spirituality on a low vibration. That's counterintuitive. You can only enter hell through that vibration. And that's a hellish mind state. Hell is in the mind. So our whole existence is inverted in the sense that we think that true spirituality in the way that it's currently constructed is spirituality. It's actually the opposite of spirituality. And we spend time arguing, even in the realm of religion, it's division that's there as well. These are all tools and weapons of the enemy. It's neurological warfare at its best. These extraterrestrials have infiltrated our governments. These reptilians. I know you guys could call me crazy all you want. That's fine. It's fine. I don't have any receipts. I'm not a scholar of anything, but I'm just talking. This is what makes sense to me. There's no way that human beings could be this stupid. But the only way human beings could be this stupid if they're ignorant of who the masters and who the controllers are. I know it's very easy to fall into these traps. Spiritual traps, political traps, religious traps. Find yourself, being tribal, being divided, whether it's through race, religion, whatever it is. It's easy. When something is that easy, I question it. Nothing's easy. Even the way we all came into this world was not easy. Your mother had to push. In some cases, her belly had to be cut open via C-section. It's a horrible way to come into this life. Cut open. A woman having her vaginal erupted by the head of the baby that's being pulled out. I know I pulled my child out of my wife. It's a very violent act. As sweet as it is, as beautiful as it is, it's also very gruesome as well. Coming into life is gruesome. How much more gaining knowledge? Do you think that knowledge just comes easily? It comes through blood and sweat. There's a degree of critical thinking that has to take place. There's a degree of patience that has to come into play. Something that comes easy is not something that's worth keeping. Something that comes hard is worth actually considering and then worth keeping. Because you still have to consider it, because not all things that come hard should just be kept. You're always thinking. That's the advantage of wisdom. Impulsivity is the antagonist to wisdom. We're all emotional creatures, and this is why the neurological warfare that's waged upon the minds of the humans works very well. People on a broadcast arguing for 2.5 hours over white supremacy, whether it exists or not. To me, that was 2 hours of wasted time, because we're fighting each other rather than coming together to find out who the real enemy is. The real enemy is not politics. It's not Democrat, Republican. But we can't see past those terms. We're locked down by terms and classifications and identifications. We are bound to those things, shackled to them, enslaved by them, controlled by them. We are. And it's hard for people who haven't considered other possibilities to extract themselves away from those things that bind them. They can't. We're all bound by certain types of ideologies and certain types of philosophies. But I'm very big on division, because I think where there's division, then there's intentionality with the division. Let me repeat that again. I'm very big on division. When I see division, I know that there's something outside that mechanism of division that's intentionally inserting that division there, so we can be distracted to not see who the real enemy is. Believe it or not, the real enemy is the God that many of you guys pray to. I know. I don't know what I'm talking about. God loves me. No, you are God. You love yourself. Worship yourself. You're no good to anybody if you don't take care of yourself. Why do you need to do anything for a God anyway? I hear people say that I'm doing this for the Lord. Why? If the God can speak universes into existence, if this God can do whatever he or she wants, what the hell does this God need creatures for, to do anything for? Why are you spending yourself thin to serve God? God didn't need you to create the universe, so why the hell does he need you to do anything else? The best thing you can do as a human being is to not marginalize your current existence and insult the source that provided you the life by living for something that you don't even know. The best thing you can do is that you know yourself. Whenever you become conscious and aware, the best thing you can do is serve yourself. You say, how do I serve myself? Take care of yourself. Be healthy. Work out. Be disciplined. Teach yourself how to be a critical thinker. Ask questions. Read books. Read things. Be a seeker of information. Don't fall into the traps of this social stratosphere. Don't fall into the traps of politics. Don't fall into the traps of of religious topics. Pro-abortion, anti-abortion, anti-vax, pro-vax. It's everywhere. Division is everywhere. So you have to start asking yourself a question. Why is there division everywhere? Some people who are religionists will say, well, if everybody just believes like the Bible believes, then no, that's not that either. Because there's so much subjectivity in that Bible. People interpret it. People interpret and inject their own philosophies into any verse, and they can find anything online to justify it. They go to start looking at different commentaries to say this is what this meant, this is what that meant, which is why the church is divided today. That's why there's so many denominations underneath the Christian sect. Thousands of denominations. We can't even the Christian doctrine can't even come into agreement on what this alleged God is saying. They're all divided. That's why you have so many denominations: Episcopal, Methodist, this, that, non-denominational. We have this. There's so many. There's so many. People are playing spirituality like little kids playing house. We're going to play church based upon what this book said. And no one's taking care of their own personal house, number one. Your personal house is your body, not your physical house. Take care of your personal house. Your personal house resides between your temples, your third eye in the brain, activated by your pineal gland, by the things you eat, what you think, how you live, your lifestyle. All those things matter. They matter. They matter. So we're just a divided race, and we're going to continue to be conquered and distracted. We're never going to come to the point where we can. And some people are more hopeful than I am, but I'm not big on this. I'm not hopeful. I look at tendencies, I look at trends, and I look at the trajectory of the human experience. Long after I'm gone, human beings are going to be long divided. We're going to have a severe catastrophic event that nearly wipes out all of humanity for an awakening to occur. And that's the only way people wake up, is when something really, really bad happens. All right? When people are comfortable, when everyone is immersed into this rat race, chasing money, thinking that thinking that a certain politician is gonna be the one to make their lives better, thinking that a mayor or a governor is gonna, like, you guys are lost. And I hope that I'm not the only one that thinks like this. There are many that are becoming more awakened. They're being more awakened to the deceitfulness and the manipulation that's been put upon us. Again, neurological warfare. So it's sad because it's hard for us. We've gotten to the point where we can't even come together on our similarities anymore. We start talking points with our differences, and then we stay on our differences, never getting to the point where we're talking about the things that makes us all common. I think that collectively as a unit, we're all trying to fight the same enemy, but we're all coming from different pathways. And those different pathways causes it sort of a congestion. Sort of like people driving on the road, and you have an intersection. You have red lights that are supposed to kind of mitigate the traffic. Okay, you guys stop and you guys can go. Then when you guys stop, then you guys can go. Well, that's not the case with the human experience. You have everybody driving from different pathways, and we're all running into each other. There's just head-on collisions, people being T-boned. Everyone is just hitting each other. And as long as we continue to stay in that cipher, we can never extrapolate our minds to a higher state of consciousness to understand that, hey, this world that we're living in is a trap. It's a trap for our minds. It's a neurological warfare. It's not the kind of war you think about with guns and bombs. The guns and bombs are just the external symptoms of what was going on in the minds of people. Before any war is fought, there's an ideology that backs up the war. Before anything is done in the physical, it has to take place in the spiritual. People have to think about it first and come up with a plan. 9/11 was a plan to go to war by your own CIA. It's been documented. This is not a conspiracy theory. America effed up America to justify going into another country to take its ancient relics and take its oil and dethrone a man, Saddam Hussein, who had nothing to do with 9/11. And if you think I'm making it up, then you have no hope. And that's what makes me say that we have no hope, because there's still people today in 2024 that believe that we were attacked by terrorists on 9/11. You know why? Because every September 11th, they go over that story again. They read it to little children. That's where indoctrination happens. They purport lies as if it's true. So little kids growing up in school, they're gonna believe that we were attacked by terrorists on 9/11. But it takes people like me, parents like me, who are gonna instruct my kids and say, no, don't believe that shit. I'm not gonna say it that way, but I'm gonna tell them that's not true. Most of these videos that I make aren't even for you guys, actually, to be honest. I don't know how long I'm gonna be on this planet. Not every day is promised. But I told my wife, I said, if something ever happens to me, these videos, these lectures that I do, these videos that I make sure our kids listen to them. Because my dad, he was busy working. He didn't have time to enlighten me. My dad was a very avid reader. He was a very intelligent man. He left this planet too soon. He was 44 when he 45 or 46 when he transitioned. All right, I'm nearly his age now. So I was 15 when that happened. So I really didn't get. He couldn't groom me. He was too busy trying to make ends meet. The pressures of this world, this capitalistic economy that's predicated on greed, had him outside the home trying to work and provide a place for his children to live. So he didn't have time to kind of sit and groom me. Because we have technology today, I can say certain things now and record it and keep it and have my kids listen to them when they get older, when they get more mature, in order to listen to them. And they can make up their own minds. Not saying your dad knows everything, but I'm imploring you guys to think outside the box. To don't take anything, don't receive anything that's given to you. Public education is public indoctrination. That's why it's public. It's easy. That's why it's free. They're always going to make it free to contaminate the mind. Why do you think why do you think the most toxic foods or the most toxic things inside stores are cheaper, but the things that are considered healthy are more expensive? It's real cheap to indoctrinate people. If you want to kill people, you just say it's free. I mean, think about it. Remember some procedure that they made everybody go get? It was free. You didn't have to pay to get that thing in your arm. That little medicine that they stuck in your arm because of the pandemic. You didn't have to pay for that. It was free. There's nothing free, folks. Everything comes at a cost. But people don't think, oh, it's free. Nothing is free, folks. You're going to pay for it on the back end. So when they say public education system, the public education system is flawed, especially the history department, the history compartment. History has been curated, and it fits only one perspective, the perspective of the European. Everything is told from their perspective. And it's false. So we got to come together, but who knows, man? Who knows? Who knows? We've been lied to so much that I don't even think there's no hope for humanity, man. There's none. There's hope in groups of people who are becoming more awakened, but in terms of as a collective, I don't see it. There's just too many dumbasses out there. There's just too many people who are so stuck in their ways. Like, it's one thing, like, I'm not saying you got to know it all. I'm not touting myself to be end all be all. I don't know everything, but I'm very open-minded. And I'm not afraid to receive anything. I don't shut people off. I don't just say, oh, I know this. I know what this guy's going to say. I don't even assume what I think anyone's going to say. I listen to everything. Do you know how hard it was to listen to 2 hours of people debating something that I don't give a damn about? But the reason why I listened to it is because I was training my mind to not pick a side. I didn't want to pick a side because both things can be true. White supremacy can exist, but white supremacy can also not exist. You say, how? Because we live in a dualistic world that what you choose to imbue upon your mind becomes what overwhelms you. As you think, so you are. So if you think there's white supremacy, then you've already put yourself in that victimhood, that you're going to operate from that vantage point. If you don't think that white supremacy exists, you're going to operate as if it doesn't exist. So the end game for both people who think on those two different lenses is going to be different. One person already has an escape. if it doesn't work out, it was white supremacy. The other person is like, well, damn, it doesn't exist. I just got to work harder. But both could be true. I'm not saying white supremacy doesn't exist. I'm not saying that it does exist. I don't give a damn. That's not the point. The point is, who is our enemy? Who's the enemy of the human race? Because as long as we remain divided, then that lets me know that there's an extraterrestrial enemy that has devised a system to make us attack one another from within, like an autoimmune disease attacking its own self, where they, the controllers, are just looking and watching us destroy ourselves. And number two, watching us remain distracted to the point where they know that we're not going to be able to raise our heads up to start to kind of think, to say, hey, here, who's our enemy? Because when we start asking that question about who's our enemy, that's when the door starts to open. Then you start to kind of look at life differently. Who's our enemy? Because it can't be you and I. Another human can be another human's enemy. It can't. When I go outside and I see a bunch of ants crawling around, I don't see ants fighting each other. They're all building. They're all building one thing. They're all ants. Now we understand they're different species of ants. But are there different species of humans? Now we have different races of humans. Does that really make us different species? No, we're still human. We operate relatively on the same underneath the same atmospheric levels. Our biochemistry would be slightly different, but overall in all, we're relatively the same. Yeah, we have distinctions. Yeah, the U melanin in our brain, our pheomelanin, all that stuff, the melanin content in us is much higher than theirs, and we get that. But generally speaking, we're all human, right? So another human can't be my enemy. Okay? We are made to view one another as enemies because the social traps that are placed here on this earth, causing resources to be scarce, okay? Making all of us operate off of a fear-based premise because we're all afraid of the next pandemic or the next anything, the next natural disaster, the next anything. Gas prices may go out the roof this summer. Who knows? The news keeps us all on edge. And as long as we continue to emit frequencies on that low vibration and then we continue to be at odds with one another, then how the hell can we ever wake up to see what the real enemy is? The real enemy makes us enemies of one another, so the real enemy doesn't ever have to show its face. It's extraterrestrial, folks. There have been many authors that have wrote about this, and they've been shunned as being quacks. It's okay. You don't have to believe me, but you will. We're divided, folks. Whether it's civil rights, black this, transgender movement, everything. Black Lives Matter, black, white conservative, white, black conservative, white liberal. It's a mess. And it seems like every decade there's another group that's added. Just adding more to the complexity and convoluting the entire system, making it damn near impossible to see that, hey man, this is strategically being done to us. This is strategically being done to us by an extraterrestrial force that's highly more intellectually advanced than we are, more technologically advanced than we are, intellectually more advanced than we are. They don't have to fight us. They just make us fight ourselves. That's how smart they are. That's why they say we have a shadow government. The government you see is not the real government. That's just a shadow. The real government, you would never see it. We're governed by extraterrestrial forces. They infiltrate governments. You say, how? I don't know all the details, but I know it can't just be humans. This cannot be. Look at the geoengineering aspect of what I've talked about several times on my channel. Do you think human beings would deliberately spray toxic filth on their own planet? Will they try to delete themselves intentionally? No. That's an extraterrestrial agenda. That's a depopulation tactic. Depopulation doesn't mean you have to kill everybody in one day. You just do things to decrease lifespan. You do things where everybody wins. You do things where everybody wins who control. The controllers win, not us. You say, what do you mean by everybody wins? Well, pharmaceutical companies win when you can get everybody sick because people then rely on the drugs that the pharmaceutical companies dispense. That's number one. All right. Number two, the medical industry gets richer by, the scam that they call healthcare system, which is a sick system. It's not a healthcare system, it's a sick care system. They care for you to be sick so they can make profit off of you. It's not about your health. You have the toxic chemicals causing so many upper respiratory problems in people. So getting people sick feeds the pharmaceutical industry. It feeds the healthcare industry, makes them richer. It decreases the lifespan of people, causes Alzheimer's and dementia. This is all proven. That's what aluminum, strontium, and barium does, which are just 3 out of hundreds of chemicals that they dump on us. We don't even know everything that they dump on us, but they are doing it. You say, how do you know this? Do you guys think that I'm that smart? I just look up. Look up sometimes and you'll see them spraying you. And that's not condensation trails, folks. They'll call it contrails. But the popular term was chemtrails, chemical trails. But the scientific term is geoengineering. And no one talks about this on the news. But they talk about weather, though. But they don't talk about weather modification warfare. They don't talk about that, though. That's not human, folks. The government is not human-based. The military is not human-based. They're all infiltrated by extraterrestrials that are working behind the shadows, working through leaders, working through banks. That's why we are in the state that we're in. That's why every conversation you have with people, everyone is tribal. Everyone is already clicking to a side. No one's thinking outside the divisions. Everyone is picking a side. And as we continue to pick sides, we're always going to remain divided and we're never going to grow. So think about what I'm saying, guys. Consider it. We have to become unified and fight the common enemy. And even if we may not find that enemy, but if we're unified, we're going to be very difficult to break. And that's what they're afraid of. You see, who are they? I just told you, extraterrestrial force, the extraterrestrial race. It's a force. You can't see it. You can't touch it. You can't speak to it. They've constructed the system that we're under. We are in a lab. We are the experiment. We are the guinea pigs. Until we come to the realization and embrace that truth, that we're always going to be self-enslaved because we're enslaving ourselves underneath a system that we are afraid to acknowledge and say to ourselves, no, we are being entrapped. We are the guinea pigs. But we think we're too smart. We're the apple of God's eye. We're the best thing that God has ever created. That's the lie. We're not the apples of God. Now, you are the apple of your own eye. But right now, we are the experiment. And we have to wake the hell up to see it as such. Because divide, divisions, wars, bloodshed, these are all reptilian characteristics, low vibrational, putting people in a state of misery, putting people in a state of war, depopulating the planet. Because when you have war, people die. Bloodshed. Babies being trafficked. That's all by the extraterrestrials. It's all ran by them. The cartels. Everything. They create systems, folks. It's not like a bunch of them just on Earth. They're so intelligent, they create systems. And they have the system run itself. Because it's neurological. They know how the human brain works. They manipulate electromagnetic frequencies that plays with our thinking. It's hard to critically think. It's very difficult to do that. You have to train yourself to do that. We're so emotionally, our energy is in the motion of what we're being fed, which is why it's called emotion. Energy, motion, emotion, energy in motion. Our energy is in motion off of what we're being told by mainstream media. That shapes our minds, which is why millions of Americans could be manipulated into thinking that we were underneath a pandemic where there was no such thing as a pandemic. We believed it because the news, the mainstream, was streaming information through our frequency, allowed by us opening our brains to receive it and to believe it. And then we start to operate off of that information that we were receiving through that mainstream. We allow ourselves to be manipulated because we think that the governmental agencies and the powers that be have human beings' best interest at heart. Nothing, folks, could be further from the damn truth. Nothing. Nothing. They don't have our interest at heart. As long as they can keep us domesticated like animals, as long as they can keep us docile, ignorant, and just continue to have us arguing amongst silly things, just politics, theater, rights, civil rights, black this, white supremacy. As long as they can, who's a Jew, who's a Christian, who's a black Jew, who's a Muslim, as long as they have those going on, they're happy. Those are all distractions. Think about this for a second before I go. If you take away all of those elements, if you took away politics, you took away religion, you took away all the things that people argue about, what would we have then? We would all be unified. We would all be working together. And as we work together, we as a unit would be more capable and be more able to detect the enemy because we're one. But when we are divided, it's hard to see the enemy outside of our divisions because we're so immersed into these little battles. Guys, wake the hell up. Just wake up. Think outside the box, please. All right. Thank you, man. Thank you guys for listening. Leave a comment and what you guys think. All right. Bye.